The Aquilian delegation had traveled for 3 weeks across 7 star systems. They carried a chest made of compressed neutron star material, filled with diamonds that formed only in the hearts of dying suns. Their ambassador wore ceremonial robes that cost more than a small planet's yearly income. None of it mattered. Emperor Rathkir sat on his throne of carved meteor stone. His obsidian scales caught the light from 100 glowing crystals. Each scale was larger than a grown human. His golden eyes watched the Aquilians approach with the same expression he had worn for 3,000 years. Complete indifference. The ambassador began his speech. He talked about friendship between their peoples. He described the rarity of the gems. He explained how difficult the mining process was. Rathkir's tail didn't even twitch. When the speech ended, the emperor raised one massive claw. The gesture meant dismissal. The Aquilians backed away, trying to hide their shame. In the back of the Grand Hall, near the service entrances, Daniel Hayes adjusted his cleaning equipment. He had worked as head janitor on the Imperial Palace Station for 12 years. He had seen the scene play out hundreds of times. Every species in the galaxy wanted to impress the Dragon Emperor. Every single one failed. Daniel's son Leo stood beside him, supposed to be in the children's quarters, but too curious to stay away. The 8-year-old watched everything with wide eyes. Leo had read every history file he could find on discarded datapads. He knew more about galactic politics than most adults. Why does he always say no? Leo whispered. Because nobody understands what dragons actually want, Daniel replied quietly. They keep offering expensive things instead of meaningful things. The next delegation approached. The Verdant Collective brought bioengineered plants that could grow on any world in any conditions. They demonstrated how the roots could break down toxic soil and create breathable air. It was technology that could save dying colonies. Rathkir closed his eyes. Dismissed, Leo frowned. But that was useful. That could help people. Dragons don't care about usefulness the way we do, Daniel said. They value honor and strength and protection. I think nobody really knows anymore. The Emperor stopped explaining his reasons centuries ago. The ceremony continued for hours. Species after species presented their finest offerings. Rare metals, ancient artifacts, advanced weapons, beautiful art. Rathkir rejected everything. His chief advisor stood nearby, scales turning pale with stress. Diplomatic relationships were fracturing. Trade agreements hung in balance. The empire was being held together by force and fear, not mutual respect. When the last delegation left in defeat, Rathkir rose from his throne. His voice rumbled through the hall like an earthquake. This tradition ends today. No more tributes. No more gifts. You bring me treasures and call it respect. You offer me tools and call it friendship. None of you understand what any of it means. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Ambassadors turned to each other in confusion. Some looked angry. Others seemed relieved. Daniel pulled Leo toward the exit. This wasn't a conversation for janitors and their children, but Leo wasn't thinking about the ceremony anymore. His mind was elsewhere, in the ventilation system near the royal nursery. 3 days ago, he had been cleaning air filters when he heard strange sounds. Scratching. A high-pitched cry. He had followed the noise and found a small dragon, barely bigger than a large dog, stuck between 2 walls. The hatchling's silver scales had shimmered in his flashlight beam. Leo should have called security. Instead, he talked to the frightened creature in a soft voice. He used his maintenance tools to carefully widen the gap. It took an hour of patient work. When the hatchling finally squeezed free, it didn't run away. It touched its nose to Leo's hand. That was how Leo met Shard, Emperor Rathkir's only son. They had been meeting in secret ever since. Leo would slip away during his father's work shifts. Shard would escape through the ventilation gaps that were too small for adult dragons to notice. They met in abandoned storage bays where nobody went anymore. Shard couldn't speak human languages yet, but he could share images directly into Leo's mind. Dragon telepathy. Through those images, Leo learned things no human had ever known. He saw dragon history. Ancient times when dragons gave gifts of protection, not objects. When the strongest dragons defended the weakest hatchlings. When gifts meant action and sacrifice, not wealth and beauty. That he also saw Shard's loneliness. The hatchling lived in a golden cage with automated care systems. Emperor Rathkier visited sometimes, but never spoke. Dragon tradition said hatchlings had to prove themselves worthy before receiving affection. Shard didn't know how to prove anything trapped in a nursery. He was desperate for acknowledgement from his father, but had no way to earn it. Leo understood loneliness. Human children on the station had limited space to play. Their families worked long hours. They were tolerated but not valued. Earth had died 80 years ago. Humans were refugees, given shelter but treated as lesser beings. That night, after the failed ceremony, Leo lay in his small bunk in the cramped human quarters. His father slept in the next room, exhausted from double shifts. Leo stared at the metal ceiling and thought about gifts, about understanding, about a dragon emperor who rejected everything because nobody saw what he actually needed. And he thought about Shard, a brave and kind hatchling that nobody acknowledged. An idea began forming in Leo's mind. It was probably stupid, definitely dangerous, but it might be the only way to help his friend. He would need to make something. He would need to be brave enough to approach the most powerful being in 47 star systems. He would need to give Emperor Rathkier a gift. The difference was Leo actually understood what that gift should be. Leo waited until his father fell asleep before sneaking out of their quarters. The palace station ran on a standard cycle, and maintenance corridors stayed empty during sleep hours. He moved through the shadows with practiced ease. After months of exploring, he knew every shortcut and hiding spot. Shard waited in their usual meeting place, an old cargo bay that hadn't been used in years. The hatchling's silver scales glowed faintly in the darkness. When he saw Leo, his tail wagged like an excited puppy. Dragons weren't supposed to show emotion like that, but Shard was still young enough not to care about tradition. Leo sat cross-legged on the floor. Shard curled around him protectively. This had become their routine. The boy would ask questions. The dragon would answer with mental images. Together, they pieced together a history that most species had forgotten. "Show me again," Leo said, "about the first dragon emperor." The images flooded his mind. Ancient times. Dragon clans scattered across worlds, fighting each other constantly. Then came a leader who changed everything. He wasn't the biggest or strongest dragon. He was the one who protected hatchlings during raids. When predators attacked nurseries, he stood guard. When rival clans stole eggs, he retrieved them. Other dragons began following him, not because he conquered them, but because he demonstrated what strength really meant. Protection, sacrifice, action over words. That emperor united the clans by showing them a better way. Gifts between dragons meant commitment. When one dragon gave another a gift, it wasn't an object. It was a promise. I will protect you. I will fight beside you. I will act when you need help. But everyone forgot. Leo said. Shard sent more images. Centuries passing. Other species joining the Dominion. They brought their own customs. Gift-giving in their cultures meant showing wealth or respect through valuable items. Dragons tried to explain the difference, but the message got lost in translation. Eventually, species just assumed dragons wanted expensive things. The dragons, proud and stubborn, stopped trying to correct them. They just rejected everything instead. Emperor Rathkier had watched this happen over 3,000 years. He remembered the old ways, but saw them disappearing. His rejection of gifts was partly tradition, partly frustration. How could he accept offerings from beings who fundamentally misunderstood what the gesture meant? Leo understood something important. The problem wasn't the gifts themselves. It was the complete lack of understanding between species. Everyone assumed their values were universal. Nobody tried to see through different eyes. Your father is lonely too, Leo said. Just like you. Shard's mental touch felt sad. The hatchling showed Leo images of Rathkier sitting alone in his private chambers. No friends, no companions, just the weight of an ancient empire and traditions that isolated him from everyone, including his own son. Dragon Protocol said emperors couldn't show affection to unproven hatchlings. Shard couldn't prove himself trapped in a nursery. They were stuck in a cycle neither could break. That's what he needs, Leo said suddenly. Not things, not weapons or gardens or jewels. He needs connection with you. But tradition won't let either of you reach out. Shard made a sound, part whine and part agreement. His eyes, large and luminous, watched Leo hopefully. The boy had a habit of solving problems in unexpected ways. Maybe he could solve this one too. Leo spent the next 3 days thinking. He attended school lessons with the other human children, but his mind wandered. He helped his father with cleaning duties, but barely paid attention. The celestial tribute ceremony was coming. Every major species would present gifts. Rathgear would reject them all, maybe announce the end of the tradition entirely. Unless someone showed him what a real gift looked like, in his spare time, Leo gathered materials. Spare parts from maintenance lockers, scrap metal from recycling bins, a small welding torch he borrowed from the engineering bay. His father noticed him working on something, but didn't ask. Daniel Hayes had learned to let his son explore his curiosities. What Leo created wasn't beautiful. It couldn't be sold for anything. It had no practical use. But it meant something that he made a sculpture from metal scraps. 2 figures soldered together carefully. One was a dragon hatchling, small and brave. The other was a human child, standing beside it. They faced the same direction, as if looking toward a future together. The craftsmanship was rough. Leo's hands weren't skilled, but the meaning was clear. Friendship, connection, 2 different beings choosing to stand together. This is for your father, Leo explained to Shard. From both of us. You can't give it to him yourself yet. Tradition won't let you. But maybe I can. Maybe if he sees what you want to say, he'll understand. Shard's mental touch flooded with emotion. Hope and fear and gratitude all mixed together. He pressed his snout against Leo's chest, the dragon version of a hug. Leo wrapped his arms around the hatchling's neck. It might not work, Leo admitted. He might get angry. I might get in trouble. Your father is scary. Shard sent an image. Rathgear's eyes, golden and ancient, but with something behind them. Loneliness. A desperate wish for things to be different. The Emperor was trapped by his own rules, his own pride. He couldn't reach out. But maybe if someone reached toward him in the right way, he could reach back. Okay, Leo said. The ceremony is tomorrow. I'll be there. I'll give him the gift. But we have to be ready for anything. That night, Leo cleaned the metal sculpture until it shined as much as scrap metal could shine. He wrapped it in plain cloth, the kind maintenance workers use for tools. Nothing fancy, nothing trying to impress. Just honest work from honest hands that he didn't tell his father. Daniel would try to stop him. Adults understood danger. Children understood possibility. Sometimes you had to be brave, even when scared. Sometimes you had to act, even when everyone said it was impossible. Tomorrow, an 8-year-old human boy would approach the Dragon Emperor, and 3,000 years of tradition would change forever. The Grand Hall filled with representatives from 50 different species. Holographic displays broadcast the ceremony across the entire Dominion. Billions watched from their home worlds. The celestial tribute only happened once every 5 years. This one felt different. Tension hung in the air like electricity before a storm. Emperor Rathgear entered last, as tradition demanded. His massive form made the enormous hall feel small. When he settled onto his throne, the meteor stone groaned under his weight. His expression showed nothing. No anger, no entusiasm, just the same ancient indifference he had worn for centuries. The ceremony began with traditional dragon chants, deep voices singing of conquest and honor, of strength and blood and victory. The songs made Leo's bones vibrate. He had slipped into the hall through a service entrance, wearing his father's spare maintenance uniform. Security didn't look twice at cleaning staff. Guards were watching for threats, not small boys. Daniel stood with the human delegation near the back wall. He had no idea his son was there. None of the humans expected to present anything. They had no wealth to offer. Their attendance was a formality, required because they worked on the station point one by one. Delegations approached the throne. The Krillian Syndicate came first. Their weapons demonstration involved plasma rifles cutting through reinforced alloy like paper. The display was impressive, deadly, expensive. Rathgear's tail didn't move. His claw gestured dismissal before the demonstration even finished. The Verdant Collective presented their bioengineered gardens next. Plants bloomed in fast motion, creating oxygen and beauty simultaneously. They explained how these gardens could terraform dead worlds. Rathgear's eyes didn't even focus on the display. Rejected. The Golden Exchange brought artifact from extinct civilizations. A crown worn by god kings. tablets inscribed with forgotten languages. Items so rare that entire collections couldn't match their value. Rathkier closed his eyes as if bored. Dismissed. After the 20th rejection, ambassadors began whispering. This was worse than usual. Rathkier wasn't just refusing gifts. He was insulting the givers by showing no interest at all. Diplomatic protocols were being shattered. Trade relationships were fracturing in real time. The 30th delegation finished their presentation. Rathkier rose from his throne. The hall fell silent instantly. When the emperor stood at full height, his head nearly touched the crystal ceiling. His voice, when he spoke, made the floor vibrate. I have watched this ceremony repeat for 3,000 years. Every time you bring me objects, you demonstrate wealth. You show me power. You offer me beauty. Not one of you understands what dragons value. Not one of you has tried to learn. You assume your customs are universal. You assume expensive means meaningful. You are wrong. Ambassadors shifted nervously. Some looked angry. Others seemed confused. Rathkier continued. This tradition ends now. No more tributes. No more gifts bought to impress me. If you cannot understand what honor means, what sacrifice means, what connection means, then your offerings are worthless. All of them. Forever. The hall erupted in shocked voices. Protests. Arguments. Fear. Leo knew he had to move now or never. His hand shook as he stepped away from the wall. His heart hammered so hard he thought everyone could hear it. But his feet kept moving. One step, another, down the central aisle toward the throne that a small voice cut through the chaos. Your Majesty. Every eye turned. Every voice stopped. A human child, tiny and insignificant, walked toward the Dragon Emperor. Guards moved to intercept. Daniel's face went pale with horror. But something made Rathkier raise his claw. The guards froze. Let him approach. The Emperor rumbled. Leo walked the longest distance of his life. The aisle seemed to stretch forever. Every species watched him. He felt their stares like physical weight. But he kept his eyes on Rathkier's golden gaze. He reached the base of the throne platform. He had to crane his neck back to see the Emperor's face. His voice should have shaken. Somehow it stayed steady. Your Majesty, may I ask a question before I offer my gift? The hall gasped. Humans didn't address the Emperor directly. It violated every protocol. But Rathkier seemed curious, maybe even impressed by the child's courage. He inclined his massive head slightly. Speak, small one. What gift would you give to someone you couldn't reach? Silence. Complete and total. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Rathkier's scales rippled. His expression changed for the first time in years. Surprise. Recognition. Maybe even pain. Why do you ask this? The Emperor's voice had lost its harsh edge. Leo unwrapped the cloth he carried. Because I have a friend who wants to give you something. But tradition won't let him. He's brave and kind and strong, but nobody sees it. So I thought maybe I could give his gift for him, until he's allowed to give it himself. He held up the sculpture. Two figures made from scrap metal and maintenance parts. A dragon hatchling and a human child, standing together. The welding was rough. The proportions weren't perfect, but the meaning was crystal clear. Your son made this. Rathkier's voice was barely a whisper. We made it together. He wanted you to know he wants to make you proud. He wants to be strong like you, not to conquer things, to protect things. Like the first emperor, like the old ways. Rathkier stared at the crude sculpture. His massive claw reached down with impossible delicacy. For 3,000 years, the Dragon Emperor had refused every gift, rejected every offering, dismissed every tribute. His claw closed gently around the small metal figures. He lifted them to eye level, studied them, saw not the poor craftsmanship, but the meaning behind it. Connection, understanding, a hatchling reaching out the only way he could, through a friend who saw what truly mattered. I accept this gift, Rathkier said. The hall exploded in shock. But Leo barely heard it. He was watching the Emperor's eyes. They were wet with tears. The grand hall remained frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Emperor Rathkier held the small sculpture in his massive claw, staring at it like he had never seen anything more precious. His golden eyes reflected something that hadn't been there in centuries. Understanding that he spoke in the ancient dragon tongue. A single word. Shard. Leo nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. He's your son, and he's my friend. How do you know my hatchling? Rathkir's voice had changed. Softer, almost vulnerable. The transformation shocked every being in the hall. Leo told the truth. He explained finding shards stuck in the ventilation system, freeing him with maintenance tools, meeting him in secret, learning dragon history through mental images, becoming friends because both of them were lonely. The words came easily, honest, simple, no fancy speeches or diplomatic language. Shard showed me how dragons use to give gifts, Leo continued. Not objects, promises, actions. He wanted to show you he understands that. He wants to be strong like you, to protect people, but he's trapped in the nursery. Tradition says he has to prove himself first, but how can he prove anything locked away? So I thought maybe I could help. Friends help each other. That's what humans do. Rathkir's chief advisor stepped forward, scales pale with shock. Your Majesty, this is highly irregular. The hatchling violated seclusion protocols. This human child accessed restricted areas. Security measures were breached. But Rathkir raised his claw for silence. His eyes never left Leo. You risked punishment to deliver this gift for my son. Why? Leo's answer was simple. Because he's my friend. And friends don't leave each other alone when they're sad. The words hit Rathkir like physical force. He studied the metal sculpture again. Saw past the crude welding. Saw the truth it represented. His son, reaching out. A connection offered freely. Understanding demonstrated through action. Not expensive words. Not a commotion erupted at the nursery entrance. Guards tried to stop something small and silver. Shard burst into the grand hall, his wings barely able to carry him yet. He crashed more than landed, tumbling across the polished floor. Guards moved to restrain him. Rathkir stopped them with a look. The hatchling scrambled to his feet. He ran to Leo first, positioning himself between the boy and any potential threat. Protective, brave. Then Shard turned toward his father. For the first time in his short life, he approached the throne not with submission but with courage. His mental projection filled the hall. Species with telepathic abilities gasped. Everyone else watched the holographic displays that translated the images. Shard showed his meetings with Leo, showed learning about friendship, about protection without expecting reward, about being brave enough to help someone stuck between walls even when you could get in trouble. The Shard's voice, young but clear, echoed in dragon tone. I want to make you proud, Father, not by following rules, by understanding what the rules meant before they became rules. I want to be strong, to protect, like the first emperor, like you could be if traditions didn't cage you too. The hall held its breath. No one had ever spoken to Rathkir like that. Certainly not a 6-month-old hatchling. It could be seen as disrespect, challenge to authority, violation of every protocol. Rathkir descended from his throne. He had never done that during a formal ceremony. His massive form moved with surprising grace. He lowered himself until he was level with Shard. Eye. The Emperor's voice, when he spoke, was meant only for his son. But the hall's acoustics carried it everywhere. I have been a fool, bound by tradition until I forgot its purpose. You understand something I lost centuries ago. Gifts are not about value. They're about seeing what another needs and offering it freely. Your friend understood this. He gave me what I needed most. Not wealth or weapons. Connection with you. And you gave him what he needed. Friendship. Acceptance. Neither of you expected anything in return. You just gave because you cared. Rathkir touched his snout to Shard's. The dragon gesture of recognition, of acceptance, of love finally expressed. Shard's whole body trembled. 3,000 years of tradition bent in that moment. An emperor choosing his son over protocol. Rathkir raised his head, addressing the assembly. This child taught me what centuries of diplomacy could not. He understood dragon values better than species who have known us for millennia. He acted without expecting reward. He helped his friend without counting cost. This is true strength. This is what honor means. He turned toward the human delegation. Found Daniel Hayes. Your son has accomplished something remarkable. He broke through walls I built to keep everyone out. He reminded me why those walls were wrong. Humans understand something my empire forgot. Connection matters more than power. Understanding matters more than wealth. Daniel, terrified and proud, managed to speak. Your Majesty, he's just a boy who wanted to help his friend. Exactly, Rathkir said. That simplicity is wisdom. We made everything complicated, turned relationships into transactions, turned gifts into competitions. Your people remember how to be simple, direct, honest. The galaxy needs that. The Krillian ambassador couldn't stay quiet. Your Majesty, with respect, weapons have value. Our offering could protect your borders. Rathkir's response silenced the hall. You offered tools of destruction. This child offered a bridge between isolation and connection. He solved a problem I couldn't solve myself, which serves the future better, which demonstrates real understanding. No one could argue. The logic was undeniable. The Krillians had focused on what they valued. Leo had focused on what Rathkir needed. The difference was everything. Rathkir made an announcement that would change the Dominion forever. The celestial tribute will continue. But it changes today. No longer will I accept expensive objects meant to impress. I want demonstrations of understanding. Actions that show you see beyond your own values. Gifts that solve real problems. The first species to understand this were the humans. A janitor's son with a handmade sculpture showed more wisdom than 1,000 years of diplomatic gifts. He looked at Leo and Shard standing together. You two will be my teachers. You will show the galaxy what connection really means. Emperor Rathkir's private chambers surprised Leo. He expected gold and jewels like the public halls. Instead, he found simple stone walls carved with ancient dragon text. Wide windows showed stars stretching forever. The space felt honest, real, nothing trying to impress anyone. Daniel stood beside his son, still processing everything. Guards had escorted them here after the ceremony ended in chaos. Ambassadors were scrambling to understand the new rules. The entire diplomatic structure of the Dominion was shifting, and somehow, a janitor and his 8-year-old son stood at the center of it. Shard pressed close to Leo, the hatchling's silver scales warm against the boy's side. Rathkir dismissed his guards and advisors. Whatever he wanted to discuss needed privacy first. The Emperor settled onto a resting platform designed for his massive form. His golden eyes studied Daniel with interest. Tell me about human communities. How did your people survive on a dying world? Daniel blinked. He expected demands or commands, not genuine questions. He answered carefully. We had to cooperate, Your Majesty. Resources were scarce. If families hoarded, everyone died. We shared food when someone struggled. We helped fix each other's homes. We taught children together. Survival meant trusting your neighbors. And here, on this station, same thing, just smaller spaces. Human quarters are cramped. We share what we can. Look out for each other's kids. When someone works double shifts, others help with meals. It's not organized, just what people do. Rathkir absorbed this. Connection without transaction. Help without expecting payment. Your species does this naturally. It's how we survive, Daniel said. Humans aren't the strongest, aren't the smartest, but we're good at working together, at seeing when someone needs help and offering it. The Emperor's expression shifted. Something like pain crossed his ancient features. My Dominion has lost this. Species within my empire trade with each other. They negotiate agreements. They maintain diplomatic relationships. But true cooperation? Trust without contracts? That disappeared centuries ago. I enforce peace through strength. But strength alone cannot make beings care about each other. Shard sent mental images to Leo, who understood what the hatchling wanted to share. Leo spoke up. Shard says dragons used to be like that. Before the Dominion got big. When clans were small, they protected each other. Shared territory. Raised hatchlings together. But when the empire grew, everything became formal, structured. Dragons stopped trusting each other without rules forcing it. Wise observations from one so young, Rathkir said. Both of you see what I missed. Empire without connection is just organized isolation. I rule 47 systems. Yet I'm more alone than when my people controlled 3 worlds. Daniel understood where this conversation was leading. Years of maintenance work taught him to see patterns. Your Majesty, you want something from humans. Not labor. Something else. Yes. Rathkir leaned forward. I want to create something new. Places where different species live together. Not as diplomatic missions. As actual communities. Learning each other's values. Building real understanding. I want humans to help lead this. To teach what you do naturally. Why humans? Daniel asked. We're refugees. We have no power. Noviat. Exactly. You have nothing to gain from deception, nothing to prove through dominance. You understand community because you needed it to survive. Other species forgot these skills when they became powerful. You never had that luxury. Leo raised his hand like he was in school. Rathgear smiled slightly. You may speak freely here, young one. If you want species to understand each other, shouldn't they also teach us? We don't know much about dragons or anyone else. Understanding goes both ways, right? Rathgear's laugh rumbled through the chamber. Deep, genuine. The first real expression of joy he'd shown in years. The child sees what I missed again. Cultural exchange, not cultural instruction. Everyone teaching everyone. Everyone learning from everyone. The Emperor's plan took shape through discussion. He would create mixed-species communities throughout the Dominion. Not embassies, not diplomatic stations. Actual neighborhoods where beings lived together. Shared spaces, worked together, raised children together. Would it be difficult? Yes. Would some species refuse? Absolutely. But the ones who participated would demonstrate whether true understanding was possible. Daniel saw the practical problems immediately. Different species need different environments. Communication barriers exist. Some might fight. Housing them together is complicated. I know, Rathkia said. The difficulty is the point. Easy solutions teach nothing. Working through problems together builds real connections, or proves the attempt impossible. Either way, we learn truth instead of maintaining comfortable lies. Then came the personal request. Rathkier wanted Daniel to lead the first community, bring his family, his experience, his human perspective on cooperation. In return, the Emperor would assign Shard as co-leader. The hatchling needed to learn leadership, needed to understand the beings he would someday rule. What better teacher than the boy who became his first friend? Daniel thought about the cramped human quarters, limited opportunities, the way humans remained on the edges of galactic society despite 12 years of loyal work. This offer was dangerous. Some species would resent humans rising in status, but was also a chance humans desperately needed. I accept, Daniel said, with one condition. Humans who join must volunteer. No one gets forced into this. Agreed immediately, Rathkia said. Force creates resentment. We need willing participants. People choosing to try understanding. They discussed details. 6 months to prepare. A neutral station between 3 systems would be retrofitted. Families recruited carefully. Species selected for openness to change. Success had to be demonstrated before expansion. Rathkier himself would oversee everything. His isolation had lasted long enough that A.S. Leo and Daniel left the chamber. Ambassadors waited in the corridor. Word of the private meeting had spread. The Krillian representative blocked their path. His expression was hard to read. Insect-like features didn't translate to human understanding. Humans rise quickly, the Krillians said. From janitors to community leaders in one day. Some will celebrate this change. Others will resist. You should know what you've begun. Power shifts create enemies. The message was clear. Not everyone wanted the Dominion to change. Some benefited from the current system. Leo and Daniel had started something that threatened established order. The real challenges were just beginning. 6 months transformed Harmony Station from abandoned military outpost into living experiment. The structure hung in neutral space between 3 territories, accessible to all but controlled by none. Multiple atmosphere zones hummed with different air mixtures. Gravity shifted between sections. Universal translators covered every wall. 50 families from 10 species moved through corridors, uncertain but hopeful. Leo watched ships dock through observation windows. Each arrival brought more participants. Verdant collective members with their chlorophyll skin. Krillian engineers with insect-like precision. Dragonkin whose smaller forms still dwarfed most beings. And humans. Dozens of human families choosing to try something unprecedented. This was home now. Daniel coordinated everything with maintenance worker efficiency. Quarters assigned by environmental needs, not social status. Communal kitchens designed for multiple species. Work schedules that force cooperation across cultural lines. Rathkier visited weekly. His massive form docked at the central spine while he monitored progress. Shard lived on the station full-time, learning leadership by doing it. Problems started immediately. Verdant members expected shared property. They took tools from workshops, assuming communal ownership. This infuriated Krillians, whose culture centered on personal possessions. Arguments erupted. Security had to intervene twice in the first week. The Verdant couldn't understand why sharing caused offense. The Krillians couldn't understand why anyone would touch their belongings. Leo and Shard found themselves mediating. The boy's friendship with the dragon gave him credibility. When tensions peaked, Leo suggested something simple. Why don't you teach each other? Verdant, explain why you share everything. Krillians, explain why you don't. Maybe you'll both learn something useful. The conversation took hours. Verdant described worlds where cooperation meant survival. Resources were pooled because hoarding killed communities. Krillians explained hierarchies built on personal achievement. Possessions proved individual worth. Neither system was wrong. They served different purposes. The breakthrough came when they started combining methods. Verdant learned to ask before borrowing. Krillians learned to offer help without expecting payment. Workshop tools became shared resources with sign-out systems. Both sides compromised. Both sides benefited. Daniel's maintenance crew became model. When a water recycling system failed, threatening 3 incompatible species, humans didn't just fix it themselves. They recruited help from affected groups, taught diagnostic methods, learned alien engineering, solved the problem together. The success showed crisis cooperation could become normal practice. Other departments requested human team members. Shard faced his own challenges. Adult dragonkin expected him to command like emperors did. Issue orders. Demand obedience. But Shard had learned different leadership from Leo. He held councils instead. Asked questions instead of giving answers. Made decisions based on group input. Older dragons found this strange. Other species found it refreshing. Not everyone celebrated the changes. The golden exchange, wealthy merchants who profited from traditional power structures, funded protests. They argued forced integration destroyed cultural identity. Ancient traditions were being erased. Some participants left Harmony Station, claiming the experiment failed their needs. Media across the Dominion split between supporters and critics. Then came the sabotage. Life support in human quarters failed during sleep cycle. Carbon dioxide built up silently. Daniel woke to strange sounds, sensors beeping wrong patterns. His maintenance instincts screamed danger. He evacuated families in time. Investigation revealed deliberate tampering. A young Krillian had disabled safety systems. The station exploded in outrage. Species demanded traditional justice. Harsh punishment. The saboteur should be removed from the station, tried in courts, made example of. Harmony Station hung on the edge of failure. If they couldn't handle one crime, how could they handle real problems? Leo made an unexpected choice. He visited the Krillian youth in holding. Guard tried to stop him, but Shard insisted. The boy wanted to understand before judging. He asked a simple question. Why? The Krillian explained through translator devices. His family had status for generations. Respect. Position. Then humans arrived, and everything changed. A janitor's son spoke to emperors. Refugees became community leaders. His family lost influence. What happened to species who couldn't adapt fast enough? Change threatened everything familiar. Leo listened without interrupting. Then he shared human history. Earth died because people refused to change. They knew the world was dying, but couldn't let go of old ways. The pain of transformation was real. Leo understood fear. But refusing change just meant dying slower. You don't have to like what's happening, Leo said. But destroying things won't stop it. Working together might make it better, though. The conversation took weeks. The Krillian repaired the damage he caused, working alongside the humans he tried to harm. He learned their culture, explained his own, found common ground in unexpected places. Slowly, genuine understanding emerged. The saboteur became advocate, telling others that change was survivable. 1 year after opening, Rathkier hosted galactic leaders at Harmony Station. The tour showed mixed species teams working seamlessly. Children from 6 species playing together in recreation zones. Engineers collaborating without translators, having learned each other's languages. Gardens growing with combined techniques, producing better yields than any single method. Leo addressed the assembly at Rathkier's request. Now 9 years old, he spoke with the same honesty that defined him. He talked about his friend Shard, about dragon and human finding connection through understanding. He admitted Harmony Station wasn't perfect. Challenges continued, but trying to understand each other mattered more than achieving perfect harmony. Progress, not perfection. Rathkir made his own speech. For 3,000 years, he rejected gifts because he saw only manipulation attempts. He ruled through strength and isolation, believing connection was weakness. A child's handmade sculpture taught him what conquest never could. Civilizations endured through bonds between individuals, not power of leaders. He announced expansion to 20 stations across the Dominion. Then came the final announcement. Humans received full citizenship in the Serpentine Dominion, homeworld rights on any planet they chose. The refugee species became equal partners, not because they bought their way with resources, because they demonstrated values dragons claimed to honor but forgot to practice. Late cycle on Harmony Station, Leo and Shard sat in an observation lounge watching stars. The dragon, now noticeably larger, rested his head near the human boy. They didn't need words. In the corridor outside, a verdant child taught a Krillian engineer how to grow flowers in low gravity. A human grandmother shared Earth recipes with dragonkin chefs. A dozen species living together by choice, not force. The Emperor learned to accept gifts. But the real gift was what followed. A galaxy learning to give freely. Connection instead of transaction. Understanding instead of conquest. One friendship at a time.